So, with the latest novel, Thrawn Alliances, just having been released a few days ago, I've managed to get through it fairly quickly. I did want to read this as fast as I could because, again, I really enjoy Thrawn as a character, and I was just so eager to find out how he would interact with Vader, and I wasn't really disappointed. Let's just say that there's going to be spoilers in this video as per the title, so if you haven't seen or read the book, I should say, then I would definitely suggest that you turn back now. Because I'm just going to spoil everything. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I'm going to try and keep the review as condensed as possible. I don't want to go into too much detail because there is a lot of detail in this book. One of the things I would certainly point out is the structure of the book. Now, it's different in that it actually takes you to two different points in time. And so at one moment you may be with Anakin and Thrawn, and the next you'll be with Thrawn and Vader. And at first this kind of really threw me off because the pace was quite slow, and we were kind of just building up each of the individual scenarios. And as the book goes on, that is less of an issue because the pace picks up. You start to intertwine the stories a lot more, so it's more seamless. You don't notice it as much. I found the stuff with Padme was extremely jarring as well, sort of the early stuff where she's involved. As the book goes on, it gets better because she starts doing things other than just talking, which sounds bad, but I'm not massively interested in Padme as a character. I like her, but I'm just not 100% interested when it's just her. But yeah, the book itself is amazing. It brings so much depth to not just Thrawn and Vader and Anakin, but to the Star Wars universe. We get so much information about the unknown regions. We find out so much about the Chiss. Basically it all just starts with Sidious having felt a disturbance, and he wants to test basically one of his brightest admirals and his apprentice, which is brilliant because I think it makes Sidious, even though he's only in one chapter, it makes him so clever because he realizes that these are his two most valuable assets, also the two who are most likely to cause him problems. So he's like, let's test out one's loyalty and let's see, obviously if the other one can handle facing his past. And that's exactly what happens. Vader has to go back to a place where he went as Anakin and face a lot of those old feelings. He has to remember what happened with Thrawn when they first met. In the first Thrawn book, we hear that Thrawn knew of Anakin and met him at some point. And this is the exact meeting that he's referring to there. Thrawn as a character is so well done in that, again, he is that very intelligent but very kind of loyal character, both to the Empire and the Chiss. All the way through the book, you're kind of questioning where does his real loyalties lie? And he himself flat out says, I've got split loyalties, I will serve the Empire until the threats are gone, but I also have a stake in the Chiss. So, if I can get results for both, that's what I'm going to go for. And it really works because, they do end up getting results for both. So we've got the two stories that take place in the same locations over different periods of time. Anakin and Thrawn obviously back during the Clone Wars, and Vader and Thrawn, during the years of running up to A New Hope. It's actually set shortly after season 3 of Rebels, where Thrawn has just been defeated at Atalon, and Vader delights in reminding him of that he let the rebels get away and was beaten by this small force, and I find that very, very interesting to see some of the consequences to Thrawn's failure. But as I say, we move through this entire story where, when you're first entering the area with the Imperial story, you start seeing some of the planets, and you start seeing, the planet that Anakin ruined, which at first you're not sure what happened. It's a devastated planet, and you want to find out more about what happened there. And, that eventually takes you to the end of the book where you find out what happened and how Anakin ruined the planet. Whereas on the other side, you start off on Batuu with Thrawn and Anakin, Anakin searching for Padme. And I just find it so well done, in that you're kind of switching and crossing all the time in terms of locations and time periods. As I say, it takes a while to get used to, but once you're into it, it's a very good structure. So the big things that come out of this book that really sort of affect the Star Wars universe is firstly the stuff we learn about the Chiss. We learn that they have Force sensitives, but they're only children, and those children get what's called this third sight, which is what Vader has, which is something that we learn about Anakin and Vader. It's just he gets this precognitive ability to see what's coming at him, and that's why he's such a strong Jedi, is because he can see where the next blaster bolt's coming from, where the next attack's coming from before it happens. And, Thrawn knows of this because, there's Chiss children who see the same thing. And that's how it's revealed that they travel through the unknown regions. They've got these children who can navigate using this Force ability. And the really cool thing is that Vader learns how to do this, Thrawn shows him how to do it. Which is an amazing thing. I never ever thought that Thrawn would be able to teach Vader anything, and he does. Which leads me on to another point. I actually think Thrawn possibly could have been Force sensitive when he was younger. He knows an awful lot about these abilities. If you're trying to teach someone something without having experience, it's very, very difficult. So I think he must have had some kind of experience with this Force sensitivity, and he kind of is speaking from a position of knowledge when he's talking about the children. But ultimately we learn that there is a threat in the unknown regions called the Grisk, and they're intent on attacking the Empire at some point. They've been watching right from the Clone Wars, and they've been preparing, and this is something that's revealed slowly over time. It's kind of like Thrawn plays this brilliant game of constantly keeping Vader in the dark, not quite being sure where he is, and he runs a very thin line. At any point, if he hadn't been who he was, Vader would have probably killed him. But he knew what his limits were, and it's described very well. And we find out that this actually is a threat to the Empire, and it brings us back to Thrawn's statement of his oath of he will serve the Empire until all of its threats have been neutralized. And now we learn there are two threats. There's the Rebellion, and there's the Grisk. And the Grisk not only threaten the Empire, they threaten the Chiss. So that's where his main interest lies. And that's why he's so desperate to get into the unknown regions, and he doesn't want to stay behind at Attilan. He will eventually go and face the rebels again, but he really wants to sort out this issue in the unknown regions, because he says that the Chiss are on the verge of civil war, which to me says this is potential for more content. So I think we're going to get either a standalone film or possibly one of the trilogy sets to be based in the unknown regions on the Chiss and the Chiss civil war. I think that would be pretty brilliant to see. So this book, whilst not being my favourite Star Wars book, sets up a lot of stuff. And it's written in an entertaining way that's very loyal to not just Vader and Thrawn, but a lot of the characters. Anakin as well. I'm reading the pages, and I'm like, yeah, this is Anakin. And it's kind of like, I want more of that. I want to read more about how Anakin and Thrawn interacted and how Vader and Thrawn interacted. It was just really well written, and it was an entertaining story. And, at first it is a bit slow, and it's tough to get into, and I struggle at some of the Padme parts, and you're kind of wishing you could just skip ahead, but you can't. There is questions whether she could have not been in the book at all, but I think they probably had to in the end, because, the whole Padme Anakin thing, and that forced Vader to really kind of reflect for the first time on, the Jedi, as he called him, which is really interesting just to see this constant reflection of Vader and how much he really hates his past. He doesn't even think of it as himself. He thinks of it just as the Jedi. He doesn't even want to acknowledge Anakin Skywalker's name, which was another very nice, little thing they put in there, was that the Chiss children, the Force sensitives, are called Skywalkers because they, walk the ships through the skies. And you've got Anakin Skywalker. I think that's a coincidence, probably, but it's a nice little touch. But I really enjoyed this book. I definitely recommend picking it up. If you haven't already read it, you're already spoiled, so, but it's still a good read, because, it's Thrawn and it's Vader, and it's, that's just brilliant. I'm pretty certain there's going to be a third Thrawn book, which I really hope goes and explores what happens to him after the events of Rebels. I'm very much more looking forward to seeing the possibility of films being put in place for, again, the unknown regions. There's a big focus on there at the moment, and there has been ever since, really, I think, episode 7, since, we realised that the First Order came from the unknown regions, and that there was, a lot of power there, I think that's something that, you know, Disney probably really want to explore, and that's where next we're probably going to delve into after the Skywalker saga is over. So, yeah, really enjoyable book. If you've read it, I would love to know your thoughts on it. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought of the book. Thank you very much for watching. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to like the video. As always, subscribe because there's going to be a lot more great content coming. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.